All right, let's do an update on Affirm. That's ticker symbol AFRM. Affirm. They are a buy now, pay later company. Coming into the week, we told people to watch these lines. We said these resistance lines that we had drawn, we thought would play a crucial point in the movement of the markets. We bounced for a while on them, came up, came back down, bounced. Friday came back up. Sorry. A lot of people thought that they were going from here, and this was, like a bottom or some sorts on Friday. People started talking about, we're going back to crazy numbers in the NASDAQ, 3,900, 4,100. These stocks will run. I said that we had, a big week coming up next week, and that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday would be crucial coming into the week. As we stepped in on Monday, we went from up here to down below here. Once we were below it, I made a video and talked about, watching this becoming resistance as overhead, and it was support. Get below it, turns into resistance, and we played with this for a while, got back up above it. I told everybody on Tuesday, once again, not get too carried away. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday were the days I was really worried about. You look at Wednesday, we stayed up here, but we didn't make any new highs. And then opening into Thursday, we gapped all the way down, came down, ended up back below this line, but we've immediately retaken it. We are now bouncing on this line as support. I know these are just lines that some random guy draws on his screen, but obviously I'm getting confluence here. It is reacting with this line. We are getting candles that are bouncing as support on this line. I expect to go up and fill this gap. So I would expect to see a firm move up into, say about 19 something, 1975 up to maybe, usually get a little bit above that. Even if it's going to pull back, they'll run it up just to get you feeling euphoric and then sell it back off. So I'd expect to see something up in these ranges. You might even see something like this as we go into a strong close of the markets today. If the Nasdaq and the S&P can continue to hold up, I could see us, in after hours, in after the close, people will run this up after hours. But I would still watch this area in the $20.25 up to maybe $21 as an issue of resistance. And then coming in tomorrow morning, I believe, because in my personal opinion, there's going to be so much fear worrying about the report when it's released. You'll probably get an early morning sell off, get back down below this line, maybe possibly come back down and test this line of resistance. If the news is just as expected, then maybe we stay in this range or come back up here and reclaim this. If the news ends up somehow being, not as hot as the report, and the markets start to continue to rally, the entire S&P and the Nasdaq are going up, then you could start to look at these next overhead levels. You could see that we are bouncing and finding a resistance right here at about 21.92. So you could say, at about $22, you're starting to find resistance, and you could expect that to happen again. If we were to get back up here after tomorrow and Friday or going into next week, I would watch for these as resistance. And we are still in a downward trend. We are still in a bear market. And I would still expect after the NASDAQ goes back up and hits somewhere in the 37 to 3,900 range, I'll be taking profits aggressively on most of my plays that I've dollar cost averaged down into these 3,500 area lows on the S&P. I'll start to take profits in the 3,700 to 3,800 range. I might choose to leave some on the table to see if some of these other people calling for much higher prices, which would pull us up into the 25 to 30 range, might happen. But I will probably reduce most of my position in these ranges between a max of say 22 and 25. I would be, pulling it. I mean, to be completely honest, with the way the markets are and as much bad news just keeps coming out over and over, unless we get a change in narratives, or unless a firm was to pick up its own change in narrative immediately, I would be looking to aggressively take profits in these ranges and not get too carried away with, crazy expectations that are overly bullish. If you have a longer term horizon, you're not just trying to, trade these immediately. You're looking to build this position into your portfolio and worry about where it's at in 3 to 5 to 10 years. this is all just a buying time. I would be buying all of this in these ranges, and anytime you break below and get anything lower, I would be buying even more aggressively with larger amounts than what you already hold to try and dollar cost average your general price range down into these lower figures. In the grander scheme of things, me personally, I think that I've said this before in another video. I think that Affirm has a very good chance of its own narrative this year. I think that as the rest of the markets come down and tank, and Affirm at first would come down with it without the narrative, and you're buying in these areas, would you not only then look to easily double or triple your money coming back up into the 25 to 40 range, but I think there's a very good chance we could see a run up, even into the 40 to 60 range coming into the holidays. The reason I say that is I think there's a very good narrative that a firm could pick up for the general idea that the markets are going to be tight on liquidity. People might be already maxed out or stressed on their credit cards and or trying to leave their credit open so they're not wanting to do holiday shopping. The fact that a firm does not report to your credit agency, does not hurt your credit report, and gives you basically an extra line of cash. I think a lot of people who maybe don't even use buy now, pay later in the past might find themselves using a firm moving forward in the future. I think that this holiday season could end up being huge for a firm. I think that a lot of the doom and gloom in the markets could actually turn out to be a specific narrative just for buy now, pay later. And in the buy now, pay later, general box or pool or whatever you want to call it of all these buy now, pay later guys, in that segment, Affirm is my favorite. I've looked into these extensively, and I really like Affirm. I was a year ago telling people I was in the bull market. Affirm was constantly bouncing between like 35 and the 50 something range. And when it came back down and people, were first trying to kill the narrative and saying, oh, this company's not, ready, it's overinflated, all these different reasons why it should, not succeed or possibly go bankrupt. And it started becoming kind of iffy and more, of a risk taking investment. I was buying calls and telling people about it. I was buying calls for later out for $60 and $90, and people thought that was crazy. Affirm went on to go ahead and hit a peak, later on that year, to where that call didn't look so crazy. If you look at what Affirm has done in the past, Affirm went all the way up to about $180, an easy 175, and was even trending in the, say, for a while, a period of time, it was trending in the 140 to 170 range. So you're literally buying this thing so cheap compared to where it's already been. Does it mean it's going to go back there? No. Those all-time highs obviously had a lot to do with speculation, the money printer running, and all the markets being, just ran to a crazy extent. However, like a lot of stocks that may never come back here again, I can't necessarily say that for a firm. I think there's a very good chance that it could easily end up back in the, say, 70 to 80 range, and would not be surprised to see it jump all the way up to like $120. That would not surprise me at all, especially with a good narrative going into the holiday season. Should a firm manage to then continue to, post positive results after that and be able to dodge any skeptical narratives that are created by the pandemic, which I could later see a crazy narrative coming where after it first runs up, they do these on purpose, pump everybody up and just take your money this way and that way. They run you up, they run you down. They make money both ways. So, and by they, I mean the institutions, the top traders, the whales, all these people who, are just way ahead of the rest of us. So I already have in my mind a plan for a second narrative that comes after that so they can run it back down before they then run it back up again and make money both ways a couple times more again. And that would be that after it does a bunch of money in sales and that gives it a narrative and it runs way up, is then they start talking about how the world and the economy and everything is getting worse. And then once you start going from the talk of recession in 2023 into the talk of possible depression, and there's all these other things, then they could start pushing a narrative through the news that they say, oh, buy now, pay later companies are going to be the first ones that people don't make their payments to because of the fact that they don't report to the credit agencies and they're, less likely to cause you problems in your personal portfolio, that people are going to say, oh, people are not going to make these payments first. And I don't necessarily agree with that either, but I will be looking to take advantage of that narrative both ways. I will be looking for a peak coming through that first narrative in the holidays of everybody buying, and I'll be looking to aggressively take my profits off the table. And I will be looking for them to then create that next narrative to pull it back down so I can rinse and repeat and buy it all over again. In a longer term horizon, if that's what you're looking for, I think Affirm is an amazing investment. I think it's a company that's going to grow. And if they do turn around to, be a mistake and go bankrupt, I'll post a video on that and say I was wrong. I'll do that. But as of right now, I continue to say this is something I have strong conviction for and I really believe in. And I think it's the best buy now, pay later company out there. If you're unfamiliar with buy now, pay later, go try a few of them and see how much Affirm is just way ahead. I mean, I like using it way more. I like the whole way they flow so much more than things like Klarna and Afterpay. I'm gonna go ahead and cut that off right there, and you guys go ahead and let me know in the comments if you have any specific questions or narratives you'd like me to tackle, or any other ticker symbols. Thanks a lot.